Okay, Israel. Shalom, shalom, shalom. I hope everybody is doing Tawab. I hope everybody had productive weekends, productive Shabbats, productive spiritual activities this weekend. Shout out Sword of Truth family. Shout out isbhpk family. Hope everybody's doing well out in Guatemala, London, Houston, Virginia, Rochester, New York, LA, Atlanta. We're going city for city, but Tawada for everybody for tuning in. I hope everybody's doing well in the cities. But today we're gonna have another one of those classes. Another one of those classes that might be perceived as controversial. It really shouldn't, but I think it's the whole point like 3 weeks ago was to go into Galatians 3 and explain it. But as you go into Galatians 3, it's taking a lot longer to really paint the proper picture because we don't want to do any evading of concepts. We don't want to sit back and run from this verse and only accentuate the easy to explain verses and gloss over the more challenging verses. And that's why we're taking more time than it might be perceived we need to.
Are you saying not to follow the law?
Well, that's a real heavy thing that people have thrown out there over the last few weeks, that we are implying that the law is bogus or you don't need the law anymore now that we have Christ. And some people can perceive the image of what we're saying as if we're coming like with this heavy Christianity kind of angle. But I promise you, if you watch all the classes from beginning to end in its totality and not just listen to one word or one phrase or one statement, and you look at the classes and list of classes from end to end, you will get, hopefully, a proper understanding of the classes and the topics. Again, I want to go into, what was that verse real quick in 2 Peter 3, or 1 Peter 3, that Paul was talking about the understanding that if a lot of people, Paul's teachings and Paul's writings is challenging, and
this man wrestle.
And all we're doing, just like Paul was back in the day, is defending his faith. If you've looked and followed us and followed the structure of our classes, we've been teaching the same thing. Now we're just expounding and explaining why we're teaching it.
Exactly.
I make one point. And we've taught the Old Testament.
And
every week.
Bro, we've taught the Old Testament for like 20 years. Can we just the New Testament? Can we? It's 2 parts of the Bible. It's come in the volume of the book. I remember us.
Hebrews 10 and 7 says become in the volume of the book.
We've taught. We've done Genesis,
I gotta
Exodus.
say this. I am already saying Salaki for the passion that comes from our mouth.
Salaki, bro.
Okay, because there's passion, there's a lot of energy and zeal coming from brothers to try to prove these points. I just want to make sure we understand. There's passion, there's zeal, but if y'all can just listen to the message and get past how enthusiastically it might be projected, we can probably get the understanding also. So let's do.
I will make one point.
Yes, you got it. You got it.
We took the time. If you watch the Shabbat classes, we've been taking chapter by chapter, taking the time to get all the history of the Old Testament, so that the Old Testament is clear. Mm-hmm. Now all we're doing is the same thing. We're taking time to get the history and the background understanding, so we can make sure the scriptures that we're going towards Revelations are clear.
Yep.
That's all.
And the New Testament is clear. We're trying to make the New Testament clear as much as we've been trying to take and make the Old Testament clear. So once again, I just want to go and read 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 16. Matter of fact, verse 15.
2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 15. And account that the long suffering of our Lord is salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul also according to the wisdom given unto him hath written unto you.
So now Peter is talking about the messages that Paul brings to the table. Now read on.
As also in all his epistles.
In all of Paul's epistles, in all of Paul's letters. Read on.
Speaking in them of these things.
About the long suffering that is required to follow Christ. The sacrifice is required to follow Christ. Read on.
In which are some things hard to be understood.
A lot of times the message that Paul is teaching is not easy to digest It's not easy to process. It's not easy to get a complete grasp of if you're just glossing over with your reading, which is why we had to take a little more time to properly paint these pictures so there's no misconception about what we're reading. Read on.
Which they that are unlearned and unstable rest.
A lot of times, if you're unlearned in the scriptures and you don't have a proper foundation in the scriptures, when you read Paul, it could trip people up. It can make people think that Paul is anti the law. It can make people think that Paul is against the law of Moses. And as we go and paint this picture coming up, it kind of sounds like that in certain verses, but if you read through the entire verses and the entire chapters, you'll get the broader understanding of the topics. If you just read one or two verses, you're gonna have a biased mindset, and you're gonna be turned off from the message. So as you're listening to the class, make sure you let the entire chapter speak. And don't just pick one or two verses and, man, this don't make no sense. This is all. Where's this coming from? These are Warren and our guys. They're off in the spirit teaching some weird stuff. What you gonna say?
And I was just saying, just like the Christians will take one concept or one verse here and there and establish an entire doctrine.
Hell, just like Hebrews.
And that's
we'll pull 2 or 3 verses and all of a sudden this is the spirit.
And this is the spirit, this is the answers. What we're doing is breaking down chapter by chapter, line upon line, to give the full expounded understanding of what we're talking about.
So did we finish verse 16? Read on.
Says, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest.
So a lot of times if people don't understand these scriptures, they're going to wrestle with the understanding of it. Read on.
As they do also the other scriptures.
So, and the word rest means distortion. The word rest means distortion, meaning that when I hear it, it's not going to be clear. That's all we're saying. This information is not clear until you do more study.
Yep.
But don't pick a position and flip out or be upset or be uncomfortable mentally because it's not clear yet. Study more, scripture upon scripture, line upon line. Here a little, there a little was the word of the Most High. Who shall he teach knowledge? Whom shall he give understanding? Him that's weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
We've gone over Galatians, this topic for this is the 4th week. And we've got to the 3rd verse. This is the 3rd verse we're going to go into in 4 weeks. And it's necessary to take this much time so there is understanding. So, are you done with that verse, sir? Read on.
Which they that are unlearned and unstable rest, as they do also the other scriptures, unto their own destruction.
Okay.
It just explains what we have to do once you get the information. You got to
Okay, read that.
Just go on to this verse real quick. Acts 17 and verse 11. When you're getting a new concept, that may seem contrary to what you may have been established in belief or may have been established in faith, what you got to do is what the men in Thessalonica did when they received.
Take care of that.
When they received the doctrine or the understanding from Paul. Read that, Acts 17 and verse 11.
Acts 17 verse 11 reads.
Because to get some background, Paul was just coming from Thessalonica. He was coming from Thessalonica, giving and teaching the word for 3 Sabbaths in a row. Going at brothers, trying to explain where he's coming from. They didn't understand it, they ran him off. So he went to this different land, to these other brothers that were more ready or more willing to receive what he was being taught. What they were being taught. Read that.
These were more noble than those at Thessalonica.
These men were more noble, more honorable than those that were in Thessalonica.
Now we're gonna sit back here and determine what makes a man noble in the eyes of the Most High. Yeah. Is it birth? Is it just spirituality? Is it how deep you are? What makes a person noble in the eyes of the Heavenly Father? Read on.
In that they received the word with all readiness of mind.
So the first aspect which made them noble was they're receiving the word with an open mind. Let me hear what you're going to say. If you're pulling the scriptures, let me see it. Let me read it. Read on.
Also, readiness says, I have a clear mind, and I'm not injecting what I think about the scriptures into a situation. I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to learn. That's one. Yeah. Read on.
My ears are open. My eyes are open. I'm ready to receive the understanding. Read that.
And search the scriptures daily.
So not only were they ready to receive it,
perfect.
They searched the scriptures daily to back what they were being taught.
That's the point. They backed the concept that they were shown. They were shown a concept, and then they gave their mind to studying the scriptures to see how that concept fit. And they found the scriptures to fit the concept.
So
that's how you learn. That's how you keep an open mind, is your teacher gives you a concept and you study on that concept
to prove it.
To prove that concept.
Prove all things.
That is a noble mind.
Come.
But you're proving all things from the perspective that your teacher is giving to you.
Yeah.
But keep going. That was perfect.
Because I can't, just like you were saying, if I'm getting in class, I can't just wait till next week to find out the end of the class, to find out the end of the understanding. If I'm reading Romans 2, and we stop at Romans 2, let me keep reading. Let me keep studying what he's saying. Let me go back to the verses he had pulled and try to connect the dots versus having a bunch of different dots, bunch of empty holes in the breakdown and wait until next week.
How many of y'all just went back and just read over all the chapters in Acts 15 and Acts 21 to even understand this? Even when I was young in the church, when we would get class back in the day, you had to go home and reread this. Restudy it as many times as you need for it to make sense to you. Why are we taking this time? Because as we go into this next phase, it's going to be just as confusing. Some topics, you're not just going to get on a whim. No. Israel loves to sit back sometimes online and in class and just sit around and just quote and rehearse verses all damn day long. And text verses to add on top of the verse. Israel loves doing that shit.
I'm wise.
No, I'm not knocking that.
Skill.
But I see Israel also, they're online and everybody just wants to, communicate and be a part of the class. There's a time for that. But then there's also time to listen. And then after class, go back and relearn the concept. Okay. I've been taught by my elders years ago. I would sit back and read and then reread and read until it makes sense. Yeah. That's not an uncommon thing. But are y'all diligent enough to go and study and make the lessons yours? Make the message yours.
But versus assuming or associating with what was being taught to you as just off.
Yeah.
It's completely wrong. There's no way this can be the truth now. You got to study it for yourself, and you got to understand if we're teaching a concept. We're on verse 3 of Galatians 3. We haven't even finished Galatians 3 yet. We haven't even finished and established the thought that we've been teaching for the last 3 weeks.
Exactly.
So you can't create a bias or understanding when they haven't even finished the whole chapter yet. We're finna finish that real quick.
Come. Whether those things were so.
So you have to have the readiness of mind, the open mind. And you have to study daily to determine whether what you're being taught is the truth or not.
Whether the things are so or not.
Yeah.
And the extra studying you put in is what solidifies whether the message makes sense or not. We can't just be young men, just take your word for it.
Elder said.
Just take the concept, take the concept and then study it to prove that it's right. We have to learn how to operate that.
I gotta pull one scripture, bro, real fast. It's important. St. John 10, verse 33 and 34.
St. John, chapter 10, verse 33.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It says, the Jews answered him.
And real quick, get Luke 24:45. I'm not gonna be long. I promise you. I'm not doing that. Luke 24 and 45. This is gonna bounce off the point you established.
Luke 24 and 45.
All right. Read it.
Then opened he their understanding.
Make verse 44.
Come. Luke 24 verse 44. And he said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you, while I was yet with you.
Who's speaking here?
Christ.
Now, what does Christ mean? Anointed Savior, right? Christ is the one saving us out of Babylon, right? Read on.
That all things must be fulfilled, which were written in the law of Moses.
So all things must be fulfilled that were written where?
In the law of Moses.
In the law of Moses. Christ did not do away with the law of Moses. Read.
Mm-hmm.
And in the prophets.
He didn't do away with the prophets. Read.
And in the Psalms.
He didn't do it with the Psalms. Read.
Concerning me.
Read on.
Then opened he their understanding.
Read on.
That they might understand the scripture.
So what was Christ's job? To open Israel's understanding. Now read my point.
St. John chapter 10, verse 33.
Let's talk about this. Read.
The Jews answered him, saying, for a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, makest thyself the most high.
So they didn't understand what Christ was saying. They didn't understand what Christ was doing. Read on.
Yahushua answered them, is it not written in your law?
Is it not written in what?
In your law.
So Christ was expanding their understanding of the law. Read.
I said, ye are gods.
This is the example of what men are wrestling with. Men are wrestling with their lack of understanding of the Old Testament. So Christ was coming back and giving
And the
them,
lack of understanding of the new.
there you go.
And for the life of most people, they can't understand how the old and new fit together.
Come on.
And how the Most High was building us up from nothing
Come on.
until eventually gathering and establishing us through Christ. It was the intro of the Most High developing us, the law, Christ, then our opportunity to the Most High. Well, let's go into this, because we can do a 2-hour intro class and never get anything accomplished.
Right.
So we're going to go back to Galatians 3 and verse 3. Galatians 3 and 3. Now, once again, remember in Galatians 3 and 1 and 2, the issue was that Hebrews, Israelites that were from Pharisaic backgrounds, were taught Christ and started accepting Christ. And then they end up sitting back here and pressuring the Israelites who didn't know who they were, that were referred to as Gentiles, that they couldn't, if they weren't circumcised, they couldn't get to the kingdom.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If they weren't following the law, they couldn't get to the kingdom. Or really, they said circumcision.
The law of circumcision.
So if they didn't do that, they couldn't make the kingdom. That was the big thing that was being talked about in Acts 15. Right? So now we read from verse 1 and 2 about Paul's disappointment in these Galatian people about how their faith was so easily rocked once some Israelites came and sit back and put this pressure on them about the law. And how all of a sudden, everything they learned in Christ, they threw out the door, and how their faith was shook on this man's statement, or these people's statement. Now we're at verse 3, as Paul is continually talking to these Israelite people who just didn't know who they were. Read verse 3.
Galatians 3, verse 3. Are you so foolish, having begun in the Spirit?
So he says, Paul is like, are you Galatians so foolish, having begun in the Spirit? Read on.
Are you now made perfect by the flesh?
Now you're made perfect in the flesh. Now from the back end, we understand that we're talking about a group of Israelites saying and implying that these Galatians had to follow all these laws right off rip, or they couldn't make the kingdom, in comparison to the teaching that Paul was giving them of Christ. That is what they're saying. This is what Paul is saying. Are ye foolish, having begun in the Spirit, learning how to follow Christ's ways? And are ye now made perfect by the flesh? And when he says, so now you're going to learn Christ initially, and now you're going to be made perfect by following the law? How does that even make sense? This is what Paul is saying. But we're going to have to give understanding to this, because if you read it from the outside, it's like, what the hell does Paul mean by saying
The law
is the flesh?
What is that?
The law is not the flesh. But what is he saying then? So once again, in order to properly, clearly, and it's most teachers, I'm going to tell you this, most Israelites will just gloss over that verse. And just keep reading. Keep reading. That ain't the point. Let's keep going. We're not going to go past this, because this is important to understand.
Look, I just want to say that verse has never been highlighted until like last month.
Brother, it isn't. There is no Israelite that has that verse lighted up. Yellowed, orange,
Notes on it,
red. You're not getting it. Because people don't want to touch this. But we're going to go into it. So it says, are ye now made perfect by the flesh? Let's explain this and get some understanding about this situation. In order to really do that, we're going to first have to go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 3, verse 17 through 22, because we're going to have to sit back and start off from the beginning when the law was administered to the Hebrews. Let's do it. 2nd Esdras 3 and verse 17.
2nd Esdras, chapter 3, verse 17.
I need it pulled and I need it clear.
Okay. And it came to pass that when thou leddest his seed out of Egypt, thou broughtest them up to the Mount Sinai.
So now this is happening right after the Most High led us out of Egypt. He got us to Mount Sinai. And as we know, that was when we were given the law.
Yep.
In Mount Sinai. Read on.
And bowing the heavens,
thou didst set fast the earth, movest the whole earth, the whole world, and madest the deaf to tremble, and troublest the men of that age.
So what he's saying is at that time, then there was lightnings and thunderings, and everybody was scared as hell. They were rebellious as hell to Moses. They wanted to kill Moses already. And then when all that thunder and lightning came, they're like, Moses, save us! Save us, Moses! Remember that time in story time we was going over it? This is what was happening. Read on.
And thy glory went through 4 gates of fire, and of earthquake, and of wind, and the seed of Jacob,
And of cold. I need you to be on this, man. All right.
If not, next reader, bro.
I'm gonna give you one more chance. Let's do this. Read it from the top again. Verse 19.
Use your finger when you're reading.
Come.
Put your finger on the word.
Let's go.
And thy glory went through 4 gates of fire, and of earthquake, and of wind, and of cold.
So all these things were happening as the Most High was introducing himself, or Christ was introducing himself to the nation of people. Read on.
That thou mightest give the law unto the seed of Jacob, and diligence unto the generation of Israel.
So all these natural occurrences, lightning, fire, all this stuff was happening right before Christ introduced the law to Israel. Don't forget, the Most High was able to speak in everybody's ear so they can understand it.
Most High.
Christ did. We'll go into that another time about how Christ was the one who was there for us from the beginning. And when Moses saw the hinder parts of the being, it was Christ that Moses saw, not the Most High. Point is this: the law was administered to the Jews in Sinai so everybody could hear it, the 10 Commandments. And then Moses went up to talk with Christ and commune with Christ to get the tablets and bring them down. Now, as all this is unfolding and the law is being administered, read on.
And yet tookest thou not away from them a wicked heart.
Now stop. This is the problem. The law was given to all these Jews, but what was not taken away? A wicked heart. A wicked mind.
What does that mean?
Evil inclination didn't leave us as soon as we got the law. I'm just going to paint the picture. I'm not going to over elaborate it. But I want to make sure the tone is set. The law is administered. The law that we're all supposed to follow is administered. But guess what? We're still wicked inside. We're still hateful. We still have lust. We still have pride. We still have ego. All these things are inside of us and they're raging. Read on.
That law might bring forth fruit in them.
So once again, okay, where are we at?
Verse 20.
And that, okay, read verse 20 again from the top.
And yet tookest thou not away from them a wicked heart, that thy law might bring forth fruits in them.
So the hope was that the law was going to go to work on that negative inclination inside the people.
Man.
The law was initially put down in hopes that it would eliminate the negative inside of us.
To solve our internal
To
issues.
solve our internal issues. That was the hope when the law was put down at the time of Moses. Read on. That was the hope. Read on.
Verse 21. For the first Adam, bearing a wicked heart, transgressed.
The first Adam that had a wicked heart transgressed from the beginning. Before the law was even administered, the first Adam was discovered to have wickedness in him. Read on.
And was overcome. And so be all they that are born of him. Thus infirmity was made permanent.
But he says, for the first Adam bearing a wicked heart transgressed and was overcome, and so be all they that are born of him. So my question to y'all is this: when the law was administered to the people during the time of Moses, did the perpetual sin that started from Adam stop? No. When Moses and them got the law?
No.
Sin, wickedness, that negative heart was still inside.
So it is
Now, what
solve
was
our
the intention of the law? The intention of the law was to hopefully do what? Change that negative inside of us, that negative wickedness in our heart. The question everybody has to answer: did the law stop making us wicked? Everybody online, can y'all answer that question? Did the law make us stop being wicked from the inside? No. I'm assuming silence means no. So, let's continue.
Yeah. Verse 22. Thus infirmity was made permanent.
So now that sickness was made permanent, even though
We got the law.
the Christ, with his best intention, sent the law of Moses down to the people with the hopes that the law would help change the negative, wicked root inside of us. But because it didn't work, sin and wickedness is permanently instilled in us. This is what Paul, as he's reading and as he's teaching, has come to the realization from all of his studies and all of his learning, all of his watching of Christ and learning the history of Israel. He was a lawyer. He knew all the history of Israel like the back of his hand.
And he studied from the feet of Gamaliel.
From the beginning, yeah. So he understood the law. He understood the history of the law. And you know what Paul understood? He understood what Ezra understood. That the law didn't eradicate the wickedness in our spirit. So, read 22 again.
Verse 22.
Is everybody clear so far? What are we clear about? The fact that the law did not take away sin inside of us. The law didn't do it. We're going to read later on in Romans what the law did, but it for damn sure didn't stop making us wicked. Because if it was going to make us stop getting wicked, when it got captured
Over and over again.
by the northern kingdom, by Assyria, when it got taken out by the Babylonians, and all these other nations that kept wiping us out.
Put in slavery.
Put in slavery. If the law was good enough to eradicate the sin inside of us. So listen, let's go verse 22 again.
Verse 22. Thus infirmity was made permanent, and the law also in the heart of the people with the malignity of the roots.
Can we find malignity real quick? So he says, thus infirmity was made permanent, and the law also in the heart of people with the malignity of the roots. So now you got the law mixed in with wicked hearts and wicked intentions. Okay, let's get it. Let me get it too.
I got one. It says.
I just want to get it.
Okay.
Malignity. Okay, what you got?
Brother. The first one could be extreme sinfulness, destructive tendency.
So now, what verse 22 says is not only now is the law inside of us, now the law is mixed in with what?
Extreme sinfulness.
Extreme sinfulness. Read on.
Extreme evilness of nature.
Extreme evilness of nature is mixed in with our understanding of the law. Read on.
Extreme enmity or evil dispositions of heart.
So listen. So if everybody in TV land and in front of us right now is going to be honest, as we read in Romans 7, the more we start learning about the law, the more we start learning about how the Most High starts to set up his framework and expectation of how we're supposed to be, what's the first thing you realize? You're a wicked SOB. And you have a long damn way to go. And if that's not the first thing that goes in your mind, you either don't get it or you're a wicked SOB. Or you're lying to yourself.
God, you're blind.
But you choose to be blind. You choose to lie.
Every man knows the negative that he plays with and entertains.
God.
Exactly. So this is where we're at. So now we have this extreme wickedness. What were those words again?
It says extreme sinfulness.
Extreme sin is inside of you. And it ain't going nowhere. It's not going anywhere. On top of the fact, now you know some verses. What is that? What does that end up? What can that make a person? Very dangerous. Very manipulative. Very evil. You get a person with negative intentions along with their knowledge of the Most High.
And now they're taking advantage of the flock.
Now they're taking advantage of people, ruining other people's lives. It could go that way. All I'm saying is it could go that way. Or you can have a lot of information about the Bible, but still be negative inside. I have seen plenty of Israelites know the law, know the scriptures, still battle addiction, still battle whoremongering, still battle all kind of deviance, spiritual deviance, spiritual hatred, bitter outlooks towards people, can't forgive, have no mercy, but they can sit back and recite the Torah and Tanakh left and right. Am I right or wrong? This is the stage, this is the understanding that Paul knew coming in as he's teaching in Galatians 3 and in Romans and in Acts and in Ephesians and Corinthians. Are we finishing verse? What's that?
I just want to say, Christ gave the law in hopes to bring forth fruit. That was the hope. The hope was.
It was the hope.
That was the hope.
That it would change what's inside of you. But don't forget the verse 20, 20, where it said he said, yet thou, meaning the Most High, took not away their wicked heart. The Most High didn't take the negative heart from them. So it's there in us now. We're not going to go into it later, but there is a reason why there had to be a second covenant. Because the first covenant wasn't good enough. Because there was still too much negative root inside of us.
And let me say why the not good enough part. Not good enough means, we just read malignity, right? It says malignity means pernicious influence. The word pernicious is tending to injure or destroy. So we kept injuring each other.
Even though we had the law.
This is how you know Christ was right and Paul's approach was correct. Because guess what? We had the law and we're still injuring each other. And how you know we injured each other? Because we continue to have that class warfare and division. That's the societal explanation. This is how you know on a societal level that you're pernicious, even though you have the framework of the law, because there was still class warfare amongst the Jews.
There has been, and there still is, plenty of negative and sin that the law couldn't root out of us. It's that simple.
And this is why we have camp warfare. Let's stop playing.
Everybody got verses on verses on verses.
Yeah.
And they choose to go to the same corner and thug it out. Yeah. and do cop tactics on each other.
But they have the framework of the law.
They know the law.
But if
they're
you
on the
have,
Sabbath doing this. They're on the Sabbath doing it.
If you have the framework of the law, then why is there camp?
It's the truth.
Then why is there camp banging if we're masters of the law? It says pernicious influence means to injure, to destroy, and evil examples. What just happened a month ago with two camps fist fighting and one camp
been reading the Bible for years
using cop tactics, that was an evil example for a new biblical student who doesn't know the Israelite realm. It says, so evil example, and then it says intemperance, meaning the inability to regulate emotions. Israelites are extremely emotional.
So the law is not going to govern and control Israelites' intempered, emotional nature.
This is how you know when a war went and said that the law was not enough. He didn't say, we don't love the law.
We didn't say the law is garbage.
We said,
or no, it's not good.
Right. Our application of the law did not break your emotional nature or your evil example.
Or your pernicious ways.
Or your injury to other people and your classism and your destroying nature.
Your hatred.
That
hasn't been alleviated.
That hasn't, and we can prove, because it's been 2,000 years. We had 2,000 years to prove it. Black people had 2,000 years, and we didn't win. We had a long time, Judas. Judah had a long time. Levi had a long time too. We ain't got it right. So we might as well go ahead and do it Christ's way, bro. We might as well go find a more clear method.
And listen, that's enough. We're going to continue to go into the scriptures and let the scriptures talk. Okay, which, even though we have. So, read verse 22 again.
Thus infirmity was made permanent, and the law also in the heart of the people with the malignity of the root.
So once again, what this is showing you is nobody can attain perfection just by having the law. Right? So if nobody can attain perfection by having the law, then can you obtain righteousness in following the law? No, you can't. Because if you can't be perfect, if you can't attain perfection, then your perfection is righteousness is based on your perfection in the law. That's how a lot of people look at it. But right here, the verse is telling you that the sin in you is not going to let you be perfect in the law. The pernicious wickedness in you is not going to allow you to execute the law to its perfection. What we're reading here is that the law is contrary to our nature. That's what this is saying. The law is contrary to our nature. Now, the intention of bringing down the law was to clean us up and establish ourselves and get us to understand, to start to understand Christ.
It did.
But the hopes was also to help root out this wickedness. But it didn't do it.
But it got it.
Like I said, all I'm trying to do now is paint the canvas. That's all I'm doing right now. The law was given, but you know what was also there? It was a I'm gonna say the word. It was a wicked heart. Was there too. And that wicked heart never left. The hope of bringing the law out was to remove the wicked heart, but it was unsuccessful. The question is it the law's fault that it didn't remove the wicked heart? Or was it the man's fault that they didn't change and adapt to the law? Man's fault. Well, that's just something for us to think about, to chew on. So we're gonna read on to 22.
So that the good departed away, and the evil abode still.
So it says now, Most High said you can't have two masters. You're gonna love the one or hate the other. So it says the good departed away. What was the good?
Christ.
The application of the law went away, and that sin and that malignant, pernicious person ruled
in a man's heart.
In a man's heart. So once again, the law helped establish the periphery of an individual, but never really got to the root of the wickedness of a human being. This is what is written even before Christ. Ezra wrote this during the time of the Persian Empire, when they allowed the Hebrews to leave Babylon after the Persians took over the Babylonians and come back and rebuild their homeland. That had to be around 538 BC. This was the understanding of this concept was even understood before Christ came on earth. Yes, Nathaniel.
Yeah, so would the understanding of the law be the good that departed away?
We're going to go into it. We're going to go into the answer to the question. I'm just trying to paint the picture so we even understand the background behind the law. The law was given. The hope of the law was to rehabilitate people. It didn't work because the Most High never removed that wicked heart from Israel. And now when you got the understanding of the law or the knowledge of the law mixed with wicked heart and intention, the wicked heart won.
It's just like when you're trying to wash your clothes and you have a spot on your clothes, a real thick oil stain, and you get detergent and you wash your clothes, but you pull the shirt out and it still has that stain. That stain's still there. It's not as strong, but that grime is still.
See it. You still see it.
You still see.
It's right here. It's not in the back where you can hide it out. It's right here.
You wouldn't take your rib out to a date with that white shirt on. You're like, what's going on, babe? What's going on? Let's go somewhere to eat. And you have this big stain on your shirt. You're not going to do it.
It's a big chili dog stain.
Everybody can see that chili dog. You had that chili dog. You ate that chili dog. It was delicious. And then you say, "Oh, it's my favorite shirt. I need to wash it." And you get the detergent, and you're doing everything you can to keep the shirt. You're scrubbing it, and it comes out, and you're like, "My favorite shirt is almost ruined because I can't wear this in public."
You just got to keep it in the house now. That's a house shirt now.
This shirt's a house
That's a sleep shirt. You go sleep with that.
Pajama shirt.
That's what I'm saying.
The law is a cleaning agent, and it's meant to clean our spirit. But there was still that stain.
There was still multiple spots inside of us.
Multiple spots and wrinkles in our spiritual garment.
Okay, so with that understanding, we're going to start now explaining then what good was the law. Okay? Now we're going to let that verse go. We're going to jump to Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 1. We're going to go into all this new covenant stuff. If I go into that right now, it's going to take off the point. But as we go through this series of classes, that new covenant question will be answered. I promise you that. What we're going to do now is go to Hebrews chapter 10, verse 1 through 6.
Come. Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 1. For the law having a shadow.
Want a definition of shadow?
Oh, yeah, I am going to need that. Yes, I am.
Read that.
Let's read. Not yet. I'm just.
Say this.
Hebrews chapter 10, verse 1 through 6. Read that.
Come. For the law.
Stop. The law. Now we're talking about the law. Read on.
For the law having a shadow of good things to come.
So listen, the law is having a shadow of good things to come. Let us find out what the word shadow means.
Con. Shadow in the Blue Letter Bible, it says sketch, outline.
So the law is a sketch or an outline. It's a rough draft of what the good is to come. So if I'm thinking about a rough draft, if I'm making a rough draft copy, that normally is my what copy? What number copy is it?
The first one.
It's my first copy.
First draft.
Is that the only goddamn picture's going to be?
No.
I'm going to say right, I'm just going to do stick figures. That's it?
That's the
I'm not going to fill in and do any images, nothing like that?
Sketch.
You ever see like the white man with the Jew fro out back in the day? He would sit back and sketch like the scenery in the background. That was just a sketch. Then he's calm, he's talking, and he starts breaking it down. It looks like some BS initially. It's like a couple circles.
It turns up.
It's a couple circles, and all of a sudden, I was a kid. We would always watch it after lunch.
I love watching that.
So I'm watching this guy. I'm like 7. I'm tired. We just ran around and ate lunch all damn day long and ate tater tots. So I'm watching this guy. It's just a couple circles and triangles because they always started that way. Then you kind of doze off because you got the itis a little bit, and you wake up. It's a full-blown ass picture, and it looks dope. It's initially triangles, bro, and circles. Then it becomes something magical and brilliant. But the circles and the triangles and the beginning imagery was the beginning of what's going to be great. So if Paul is explaining the law the same way, it is the beginning of the evolved individual that Christ was going to take them to. It was not about taking away the law. It was the beginning of the understanding of what the will of Christ and the Heavenly Father was. People sit back here and they keep wanting to drop the law verses. It's cool. Nobody is anti-law. All we're saying is the law is the beginning, and there's more to it. I don't understand where the disruption is. The law is the beginning. It's the shadow. It's the first draft.
It's a school map.
Can you make the picture without the first draft? No. But after you put those damn circles and triangles, you got to add on top of those damn circles and triangles. Does that make sense? Then why is there such a disconnect with Israel on this law thing? The law is the first sketch. It's the shadow of good things to come. It gives you the foundation of other good things that's going to stack on top of that good foundation. That's all Paul is saying.
For your
But when
body.
you're sitting back here listening to class, people be missing it.
That's like your body. If you were just walking around, you're just a skeleton bones guy walking around, The law gives you structure. So your bones in your body give you structure. You got rib cage,
cartilage.
You got rib cage. You got arms.
What good is bones without connecting tissue?
If you don't look, you're gonna walk around with like
body.
You know, you be a skull man. You're gonna be a skull man. You see when they put those suits on and it's just black and white. And the white, you see the bones.
The bones dancing.
The law.
They're dancing. They're pop locking.
They're pop locking. The law is the structure of the body. You gotta have your shoulder bones, your clavicle. You have your spine, doing all the details of your spine. You got your kneecaps.
Your hip bone connects to the
Yeah,
thigh
you got your hands. If you had X-ray vision, you can see all the little bones.
Oh my God!
I don't know what they say to you.
The tibula, the fibulus, the cybulus, and all those. I don't know.
They say there's all kind of bones in your hand, like a million,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I'm making it up.
Metacarpals.
Right, there's a million bones in your hand, right?
Foundation.
So all the bones, they say there's, you have how many bones in the body?
Okay,
let's get deep.
It could be a man if it's 206 total.
No. They say there's a lot of bones in the body. I forgot how many bones. The point, 206, right? Okay, listen. The whole point is, with the bone to be a complete human, you have to have the sinews. You have to have
the connecting tissue.
The connective tissues. You have to have the flesh and all the muscles and to make
muscles.
The muscles.
We gotta get his MD code out, his medical doctor code.
You gotta have the
And
muscles.
his stethoscope. Yeah, we gotta check these muscles out.
Are you well?
That's all still, right?
Right. So the Most High.
Okay, let's keep going.
So the Most High is trying to mold us out. He's molding us.
Yes.
Right? The law is the structure.
The law is
the outline.
Well, what's the shadow again? Definition of shadow?
Shadow is sketch and outline.
The law is the sketch and the outline of good things to come. So once again, if that's what Paul is saying, he's also saying the law is still good.
Okay.
You can't build something good on top of a bad foundation.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Paul is like, listen, the law is the beginning good foundation in which other better foundations or more elaborate foundations are built on top.
It's the frame of the house.
Because like you said about Christ came to give understanding. The understanding fattens the bones.
Yeah.
Okay.
It puts meat on the bones. It gives clarity, and it works inside out. The law works outside in. The law of Christ works inside out. Now you have the complete man that can be presented to the Most High at the end. Yes.
I have a question. So, are you saying the first application, or rather the first way we were taught to follow the law, that was the framework?
Yes.
But now that Christ has come back and given us a better way, that's the true or the magnified application.
It's the greater understanding.
Okay.
It's the greater understanding. It gets to a point where we have to get past the basic sketch.
Okay.
The basic sketch is awesome.
Yeah.
Like I said, whenever you're writing and drawing people, it's circles and squares and triangles. It gets to one, you got to get past that.
Yeah.
To actually form a better image,
masterpiece, right?
a masterpiece. And this is what Paul has been teaching this entire time. Okay, so let's read Hebrews 10:1 again. I hope everybody is starting to understand how this picture is getting painted. Read on.
Hebrews chapter 10 verse 1. For the law, having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the thing.
He says the law is not the very image, because it's not the finished product. The law is not the finished product, which lets you know that there's more to it than just the law. It's not that the law is bad. And Paul, listen, Paul, all through these epistles, says the same thing in different ways. He keeps saying the same thing in different ways. So if you didn't get it this way, hopefully you get it this way it's written out. If you don't get it this way, hopefully you get it that way. So he's like, listen, it's the beginning image, but it's not the very complete image, because Christ gives you the complete image after you've embraced the first draft. Read on.
Oh, we want the definition of image? It's his right.
Okay.
Image. It says, the image of the Son of the Most High. This is the Blue Letter Bible. The image of the Son of the Most High, into which Christians are transformed, is likeness not only to the heavenly body, but also to the most holy and blessed state of mind, which Christ possesses.
So what it's saying is, if you take away all the little Christian lango-dango stuff, it's telling you is that Christ shows you how to have inner peace from within. It gives you inner clarity, inner peace of mind. Christ's teaching, Christ's method is what is the only thing that can slay that wicked heart that was in Adam from the beginning. Christ's example was the only thing that can slay that malignant root that the law couldn't overcome and capture and defeat.
The injury, the destruction,
the pernicious approach. Christ's lifestyle and what he taught and how he lived, that is what kills that, not the law. Now we're going to explain the purpose of the law in a second. And we're going to explain how the law was that first image or that first copy. Read on.
And not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices which they offer year by year continually make the comers thereunto perfect.
Now he's like, listen, all the sacrifices, all the killing of animals, all the work, all the purification rituals, all the sprinkling of blood and cleaning the insides of the animal and washing the animal's feet, cleaning the inside of the animal. We know, we've taught for years that in Leviticus 1 that was symbolic for changing what's inside of us, right? But that symbolism didn't work. It was supposed to work.
It was establishing a concept.
And it was supposed to work. The goal was for that symbolism to work, but it didn't. And that's why Paul is saying, can never with those sacrifices which they offered year by year during the Day of Atonement, continue will make the comers thereunto perfect. The rituals didn't change the man. The routine didn't change the black-heartedness in us, our desire to sin. This was the issue that Paul was explaining with the law. He's not saying the law is wicked or evil. He's saying that the law, the way it was structured, was not going to take away that wicked, negative, beastly mind that we had. So no matter what, how many Sabbaths you honored, no matter how many ceremonies you went to, no matter how many Day of Atonements you honored, wasn't going to take away that wickedness in you. Wasn't going to take away the need to keep doing the same things over and over again. We kept going through the routines, and it didn't change us.
So it
didn't change us from the inside.
So you're saying that the law gave us framework, but it did not fix our character. Because what you understand is Christ is dealing with character. He's dealing with the character of a man. So the law and the ritual of the law and the structure of the law is good for having the nation on one accord, bringing the nation together, having a household in order, and structuring things, but it did not perfect the character of the nation.
Yeah. So listen, we're going to go into it. I don't even want to go heavy into the rest of Hebrews 2 through 6 because this is going to take it too far off. Yeah. Let's go to Romans chapter 7 and 1.
So recapping, we went into 2nd Ezra where Christ gave the law in hopes to bring good fruit. Meaning what? The law was spiritual. The law was righteous. But what wasn't righteous, what wasn't spiritual, was our application or ability to lock into the spiritual law. That was the flaw. Because of our malignity or our evil heart.
Listen, if the law was perfect, which it is, the people weren't perfect.
Yeah.
And this is what Paul is saying. The law is perfect. And it does convert the soul. If a person actually gave themselves to it. But we just read that malignant, wicked spirit never left us from the time of Adam. So once again, what did we just say when we were talking in 2nd Ezra chapter 3? What did we say?
That wicked heart.
What we said is the law was contrary to our nature. That's what I'm saying. That's what Paul was saying.
It didn't take
Paul is going to say it in Romans 7 even more. The law, as good as it is, didn't make wicked people stop thinking wicked things.
Right.
Raise your hand if you stop thinking wicked and stop doing wickedness once you got the law. All right, I thought so. So let's go to Romans chapter 7. That's all we're saying. The law is awesome as hell. But you know what? We're not.
Our righteousness is filthy rags.
It's garbage. Our conduct is garbage. And the only thing that will help fix that negative root in us is Christ and following His way. That is what fixes that malignant root that's inside of us. And that's why Christ was so necessary. Because the law alone couldn't do it. You know what's funny? Even we go to Psalms 19, right? Psalms 19. Who's speaking in Psalms 19?
Asaph?
No, that's David.
That's David.
So listen, did David know the law? Did that keep him from committing adultery? Did that keep him from watching that naked woman on the damn terrace saying, "Damn, bring her up"?
And then killing
He knew all the Torah.
Huh.
He probably wrote Psalms 19 by that time. Did that make him stop and sit back here and not commit lust? You know what? Then what made him do the lust? Was the law, or was that wickedness inside of him? There we go.
And then
This is why,
and then he
when we
killed
eventually get to it, you read Acts 13. This is why Paul says we're not justified by the law. The law doesn't make us righteous. And you know who we use as examples? David. Listen, even Moses had a negative outlook.
Yeah, that's true.
With all that goodness, he was the meekest man on earth. And he said, "I'm sick and tired of y'all niggas. Pop, pop, pop. Get the water out. I'm tired of this shit." He did. You don't think that's what he was thinking? Why you think the Moses said, "No, you can't make it to the kingdom, B. That's it."
It's one time.
That's true.
But it's the truth. So you know what? He fell short. David fell short. As great as he was, the law didn't make him pure.
Man.
How about that?
And he was talking to Christ.
Khan!
He got the law from
Khan! That Moses, yes.
So my Lord said, the Lord said unto my Lord.
No, I'm talking about Moses.
Sound
Yeah,
transfigured too.
but David did.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, he's talking about Moses.
Yeah.
What's that?
Sound transfigured too.
Yes. Oh, so we got this point. All I'm saying is we can go about all the great things, the law. We get it. The law is great. What are we saying? The law is pure, but man couldn't do it. It couldn't change what was inside mankind. That's what you got to keep driving in your head if you want to learn this. You know what people got to stop doing? Stop pulling verses and listen. Stop pulling verses and listen. Maybe if you listen, it could stick in. We just read it in Acts 17:11. The nobleman took the information and studied it to get the understanding.
with the radius.
If you're constantly pulling verses and you're constantly thinking of a verse to pull, you're never going to take the time to listen and digest it. Romans 7.
Romans chapter 7 verse 1 reads, "Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law."
So now Paul is like, I'm talking to the people who know the law. Read on.
Come, how that the law have dominion over a man as long as he liveth?
There's no denying that. The law has dominion over a man as long as he lives. Read on.
For the woman which have an husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he liveth.
Now what Paul is doing is comparing the fact that a man has to follow the law and he's bound by the law until death, just like a wife is bound by the law to her husband until she dies.
So it's law forever.
Neither gets an out.
Come.
Neither gets an out. Neither has to roll with the person that you chose from the beginning. We know who we are. We got the law. We're stuck with the law. That wife got a husband. She's stuck with that man. Read on.
But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband.
According to the law, if her husband dies, she can remarry. Right? That's the law. Read on.
Verse 3. So then if, while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress.
And that's self-explanatory. If she cheats on her man, she's an adulteress, while she's still married to her husband. Read on.
But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man.
Do we understand that? If the husband is passed on, she can remarry. Now listen, let's not blow our head gaskets for the next few verses. Just let us get through it. 4, 5, and 6. Heads go, no! Not my Torah! Read verse 4.
Verse 4. Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law.
Read on.
By the body of Yahushua.
So what he's saying is this. Who is he talking to in verse 1?
Israelites.
He's talking to Israelites who know the law.
Okay.
Think about what Paul is trying to get them to do. He's trying to get them to get past the intro picture, the first draft. He's trying to get Israel to move on from the first draft and embrace the new approach. Okay? Read verse 4 again.
Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Yahushua.
Because you can only marry one person at a time. You can only commit to one approach at a time. You can't have two masters. If you have two masters, you don't have one. You're going to love one and hate the other. Right? So this is what he's explaining when it comes to Israel and their Torah-heavy presence. He's like, listen, if you're coming into this Torah-heavy and then you want to sit back and learn Christ too, it ain't going to work. So you're going to have to be dead to one mindset in order for you to be alive and connected to the other. But does that mean that you forget everything that you learned from the previous relationship you had with the law? No. You still maintain the understanding of that relationship. But now your marriage is completely fixated with your new partner, Christ. This is what it's saying. He's not saying you're dead to the law. It's not like you smoke weed, not operate in the Sabbath, not sit back and work fringes. He's not saying that. He's saying, you know what? Now you can't have two masters. Can somebody find that verse for me?
Matthew 6 and 24.
6 and 24. Thank you. Matthew 6 and 24.
Matthew chapter 6, verse 24.
Read that.
No man can serve two masters.
Nobody can serve two masters. So either you're going to be the servant to the law of Moses, or you're going to be a servant to the law of Christ. It can't be both, because the mind can't operate like that. And while Paul is explaining it, is how he's paralleling how a wife's supposed to act with her husband. She's not supposed to double dip while she's married. Her whole focus should be on her husband. And if he passes, now it's on my new husband. That is how it operates. One master at a time. Paul is saying the same thing. One master at a time. You know the law, cool. Now it's time to make Christ your master. Because you're not going to master understanding Christ unless he's your only focus and priority. You can't master anything unless you have one focus and one teacher as your priority. Even the scripture tells you in Ecclesiastes about how when you're operating with wisdom, you're supposed to only have one teacher that provides the gold to you.
Yeah.
One person that stings and corrects you and chastises you. You can't have 1,000 counselors. You can't have 1,000 people dealing with your issues.
The words of the wise are as goads, and as a nail fastened by the masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd.
One shepherd.
Ecclesiastes 12 and 11.
So if the law was your shepherd, now it's got to be Christ's message has to be your shepherd. Now, does that mean that you forget everything you've learned concerning Moses? No. You're just now your priority is in understanding and mastering Christ.
Or you erase this. Does it mean you erase the sketch?
No. You have to build on top. That's what I kept saying. You build on top of the first sketch now with Christ. But I don't gotta be focusing on the law of Moses because I got that already. Let me get the most of this. Now, for those of the people who are still trying to digest Moses, digest it.
You need it.
Once again, what do you think Christ was teaching the publicans and sinners when they were sinning?
The law.
He said, sin no more. He didn't go into anything else. Because at where they were in their spirit, and I'm going to say this online, where certain brothers are, it might just be the law. And my answer is this, then do it. And when you're ready, there's more. How about that? This isn't a race. If this is too much, then just focus on the law until you're ready to graduate and get out of the first sketch. A lot of Israel is still in the first sketch. There's no shame in that. There is no shame. But just know there's 4 more pages, there's 4 more books. There's like 3 more sketches you got to tap into. So when you're ready, you're going to have to sit back here and eventually move on from your husband Moses and remarry Christ. Does that make sense? If I'm talking weird and I'm not making sense, say it. And we'll go into it further. Yes, sir.
Isn't it like if your previous husband died and you learned a good discipline from the previous husband?
You learn how to serve.
And you go meet your new husband, you're not going to forget how you swept the floor. He's going to show you how to sweep it differently.
You're going to be a teenager again now.
Yeah.
I don't know nothing.
He'll show you, okay, just clean this part. You got this part down. Now, just sweep a little bit differently in this area. Something like that. Use
Fabuloso instead of whatever. Mr. Clean. It don't matter. Right. It's easy if you're in the spirit of learning. Yeah. But people read verse 4 again.
Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law.
This is when people start getting unraveled and saying, oh, Paul is saying don't follow the law. That's not true. Man. Read on.
Ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Yahushua.
Read on.
That ye shall be married to another.
Now it's time to commit yourself to following Christ. How good has following Moses done for you? Has it fixed everything in you? The reality is this. What Paul is saying, what Ezra is saying is, there comes to a point where you plateau and follow the law. Bro. You plateau when you after following the law for so long. Right. You're not going to be able to still fix these inner demons over time. You can take 5-10 years, whatever. You'll sit back and do 10 years in this, and you still won't be able to break the sin that's in you. Then what are you going to do? Once you're tired of spinning the wheel and going through the spin cycle of sin, then you can come back and learn Christ and start chipping away at that real sin in you. This is what Paul is trying to teach. This is what Christ taught. Read on.
I got to read one thing. Jeremiah.
I don't want to go 31. I don't want to go 31 because that's New Covenant.
I'm not going there. It's just Jeremiah 3:14. Turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, for I am married unto you.
That's Christ, though. That's not the Most High. Christ is married to us. Didn't he say that in Revelations?
But
what we don't even realize is from the time of Moses down, that was Christ dealing with us. Most High wasn't even there. It was always Christ. So why is it such a damn mystery now that Christ is like, follow me? He's been for having us follow him. Wasn't he the pillar of fire by night and the cloud by day? He was the one that was communicating with Moses. He was the one that was the smoke that entered into the tabernacle and the smoke that entered into the temple. That was him. That was not the Most High. It was Christ gathering us and guiding us this whole time. Now we're tripping up. We got to follow Christ like that's a dirty word? What are you talking about? We've been following Christ this whole time. The law was just set up to give us the beginning sketch, an outline of what it's going to take to really learn how to follow Christ down the line. He even understood that from the beginning. It's going to take them X amount of generations to even get ready for me. Because they're not going to just come out of Egypt learning how to love each other. So let me just force them to love each other. Until they can eventually grow up and realize, I have to love my brother from my own heart.
It goes into that class you went into a couple months ago, talking about the beginning stages of following the Most High is initiating fear.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta keep stinging you
because they're not going to respect. They're not going to respect the basic conversation. Christ knew it earlier.
Yeah.
I got to give them rigid rules,
Yeah.
and then maybe over time they'll see the loving side
Yeah.
when I come down.
Yeah.
So read verse 4 again.
Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Yahushua, that ye shall be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead.
Which Jeremiah 3 and 14 say in the Old Testament. Keep reading.
We're going to be married to Christ. Read
That's
on.
it.
That we shall bring forth fruit unto the Most
So
High.
what does that mean? The purpose of having to let go of the law of Moses is so that you can grow. Because the law is your foundation. But if you want to grow, you got to find Christ. You got to follow Christ's approach. That's why you get to bring forth fruit. Didn't Christ say he wanted more? He wanted usury?
Yeah, that's true.
Christ said he wanted usury.
That's true.
Christ's approach is usury. He's not replacing one approach for another. He's adding on to the foundation that's already presented from the law of Moses. He just wants more and expects more from us now that we know the law. Now that you're taught, you start letting your hair grow, you start out on the Sabbath, you start seeing like it getting fringes, now you owe more. Because now Christ is like, you got to give me more now. Just like in John 15, and where he talks about that he's the true vine, and he's going to purge so you can produce more fruit. But you can't get purged to produce more fruit until you get out of the mindset that the law is enough. You can't grow until you accept I got to do more than just follow the law. That's how you abide in Christ and he in you. Read on.
Verse 5. For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins which were by the law did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death.
And we read that in 2nd Esdras 3. When we were in the flesh, the motions of sin,
Which means the passions.
yes, the motions of sins, which, when it says, I want to make sure I'm slow with this. For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins, which were by the law. What does that mean? Is it saying that the law is the flesh? Or is it saying, and it's going to get more specific, like 5 and 6, it's like from 5 and 6, 4 through 6, he gets to the end. But then he goes back in verse 7 to explain what he meant from verse 4 to 6. And he goes into more detail to explain it. So he's like, listen, for when we were in the flesh, the motions of sin, which were by the law. What he's saying is, the law, what the law did was identify this negative in you. How about when you was in the world, you did all kind of crazy, reckless shit, it was cool, and you didn't think nothing of it. And then all of a sudden the law comes out, now I got a demon on me. Now I want to do some dirt, but I can't do it.
I want it even more.
I want it, now you want it. And it's nonstop, it's constant. Hey, we gonna do this shit, man. I know you doing that. Listen, I know you out here sitting back here like doing the work, but what about this? What about this flesh, man? listen. And listen, for anybody who's real about it, that's how it is. It's like, where are we going? Day is done. It's 4 o'clock. We got time today. We don't got to read till Sunday tomorrow. What are we doing tonight? You got time to get in the shower, get dressed, What's going on?
It's Thirsty Thursday.
And you like, and but then you'll wake up at 9 a.m. with some bullshit in your head. 10, like 8 a.m. you got bullshit. I got bullshit thoughts at 6.
Crazy.
6 a.m. What's going on? I got negative at 6 a.m.
4 in the morning.
I got 4 in the morning shit. You planning out your night at 4 a.m. What's going on? You planning out what you gonna do to get out? How many beers you gonna knock down? How much you gonna pregame? You know damn well I got a pregame for the after party. And you thinking that bullshit a day ahead of time. That's all the brothers. You know, see, then you get a late night council call, and everybody scream, I had plans. And you moving all crazy. That's
the demon. That's the demon.
And you don't want to answer the phone. Like, I don't want to be told no. I'm not answering this phone. My ringer was off. Slakia. It was that monster in you. That monster wanted to play. He was a monster. And you know that's the damn truth. That's the motions of sin. That was manifested from the law. So is the law sin? Or is the law and all the restraints that come from the law manifested the sin that we didn't even know was in us until the law was brought forth?
It woke it up.
Huh?
It woke it up.
It woke it up.
And people always say,
so is that the law's fault? It's not the law's fault. It's that malignant wickedness that's inside of us.
We get mad, start complaining. This is when you start teaching people just the law from the beginning. Because we teach men when they come into camp from the very initial phases, they gotta keep the law, right? Okay. But the more laws you give them, they start being like, oh man, this is a drag, man. I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing.
That's like some 60s shit right there, man. A drag? That's cool, man.
I can't do nothing over here. And they start trying to avoid.
Well, it's the same thing with sisters when they first start getting married, and everything's no.
Oh yeah, that's real.
And then all of a sudden it's pride. And why? I don't want to stand this truth. I know why you don't want to stand it. I know exactly why you don't understand it. You know that I don't understand spirits. I want to do what I want to do, and you're telling me no. That is what the motions of sin is because of the law. Does that make sense? Read verse 5.
For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death.
Once that law was established and you was told what you can and cannot do, and then that the motions of sin, meaning the manifestations that we've created with our desire, brought about what? Death. Because that desire to sin ended up turning into what? Actuality.
Don't eat the cookie. The law. Now you want a cookie that much?
No, I gotta have cookies.
The bomb. This cookie gotta taste
better. Oatmeal? Is that oatmeal up there?
That's all I want. All I wanted was oatmeal.
Now you're just obsessing about oatmeal. Yeah. That's the point. So now the motions brought about death. Yeah. The law said no, but that negative in me wants it now. And the pursuit of that negative is what leads to our death. Read on.
Verse 6. But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held.
So once again, he says, but now we are delivered from the law. Read on.
That we should
serve. From the top again.
But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit, and not in the oldness of the letter.
All it's saying is this. Not that you're not supposed to follow the law, but now that this law is dead, who's alive? Christ. Now I'm following Christ. Now to take over all these issues that I couldn't overcome by just following the law. Now I have to follow Christ in order to finish off what I started in the law.
He said, I will not leave you comfortless.
But that's the thing. The comfort is in what? What's John 16 and 33? Go there real quick. St. John 16 and 33. Yeah, that Hebrew one. Yeah. St. John 16 and 33.
St. John 16 and verse 23.
33.
Salaki. St. John 16:33. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace.
What does that peace mean? He says, if you follow Christ, you'll have peace, which means you won't no longer have that inner turmoil that happens from wrestling with the law and that negative in you. Because that's what we're about to read in Romans 7 is about once the law is provided to you, now that inner struggle is flaming and rolling. If you follow Christ, but you want to follow him, you have to give your life to him. Now all of a sudden you can truly get control over that beast that you never can get control of with the law. So in the process of reading Romans 7 and 6, he's telling you that you're dead to the law, not that you're dead to the understanding of the law, but now you're going to follow Christ so you can eventually have that inner peace, so you can eliminate the motions of sin that dominated you when you had the law. Is that clear? You gotta rewind that, G.
Yeah. One more time. Because sometimes you hear some more than one time.
Man, that's a lot of stuff, bro.
No, just the last.
Okay, listen. What I was saying is this. St. John 16:33. Read it again.
St. John 16 and verse 33. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace.
In Christ, and following Christ, and following his method, you'll have peace. Now listen. What did verse 5 say? Read verse 5 again. In Romans.
Romans chapter 7, verse 5 reads, For when we were in the flesh, the motion of sins, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death.
So when I followed the law, and I still had all that negative in me that I couldn't control, does that image of a person look like they're a peaceful person? No. That person is stressed. That person is bipolar. You ever seen Israel? That one day they're happy, and the next one they're just fiending for whatever the hell they want to do, and they just can't control their flesh, and it's turned up, and they're trying to act all poised. Everything's cool, and they get the hell out of class early as hell. Why is he out of here so quick? He can't be contacted. What is he doing? He's out in these streets, getting it in. Listen, the emotions. When it says emotions sin, your mind's made up. You're going to do what you're going to do. How many of y'all have done that? Listen, you have made a decision that sin's going to happen today.
I'm going left.
There will be sin. There will be sin today. And you made that decision. And it doesn't matter. You know the law.
You're bad law.
But that guy on the left won.
Brothers go from kings in Christ to the kings of Leon. If you really know this.
Listen. So all we're explaining is that's what the motions of sin does. When the law is established, the motions of sin is flowing, and it ends up bringing death to you. When you follow Christ, you're not going to have that. And when you follow and master Christ, you're not going to have that inner struggle anymore that you have even when you follow the law. So it behooves all of us to eventually grow past the law, appreciate it for what it is, the shadow of that sketch of of the good that we're supposed to be, use it for what it is, appreciate the law for the boundaries that it establishes for us, and then learn to master Christ's approach.
And you never throw away the basics.
And that's what the end of Galatians explains very clearly. But I can't get to the end until we go through these crunchy topics. Yeah. We'll get there.
I'm glad we didn't just skip and go skip.
Because you know what's funny? The answer keeps explaining itself throughout the entire chapter. The rest of the chapter is light after we get to verse 10. Yeah. It's easy. So we understand now you can follow the law and still be battling like a raging maniac inside. And that duplicity, we always talk about duplicity. Yeah. That duplicity is raging. But if we give ourselves to Christ and follow his way, we can be at peace mentally. We can be at peace and we can gain control over that wicked spirit. Yeah. This is what Christ is teaching. If you give yourself enough to how he does things. Okay. That's the difference between the motions of sin, which brings about chaos and struggle inside of you, versus the peace that comes from Christ when you're all in, you're one mindset, and you've given your way to Christ. Let's continue.
Verse 6. But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit, and not in the oldness of the letter.
Now let's read verse 7.
Verse 7. What shall we say then? Is the law sin?
This is what a person that has no understanding would say if they read this verse. Damn. That means Paul's saying the law is sin. Kill him!
Yeah.
Kill him dead! Beat him first, and then kill him.
The law's not perfect.
That's not what he said, though.
Yeah.
This is why he is already answering a question that he knows the majority of Israelite readers or people are going to ask. Damn, you saying we ain't supposed to follow the law? It's wicked? The law is wicked? Let me pull a bunch of verses saying the law is pure. We get the law is pure. We get it. I promise you, I get it. But keep going. This is not what Paul is saying. This is not the understanding of Romans 7. He is not saying that the law is wicked, the law is sin, or the law is evil. Read on.
Is the law sin? The Most High forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law.
So now he's expressing why the law is valuable. The law is valuable, and it's beautiful if you take it for what it is. And you can appreciate it for what it brings to the table. And what the law brings to the table is that it sets the boundaries to show us what wickedness is in us. The scripture says the definition of sin is when you break the law. 1 John 3 and 4.
Transgression.
So it says, or transgression of the law. So he's like, I wouldn't have ever learned what sin is unless the law was established, unless these boundaries were made for me. So he's not knocking the fact that the boundaries are made. He's just saying that, hey, once these boundaries are made, a beast is manifested from it. That's what he's focusing on, the beast that is revealed once the law is established. That is what he means by the law is the flesh. Because the flesh is exposed and revealed once the law is brought out. But the flesh never gets killed.
Right.
The flesh never gets crucified.
It's that monster that keeps coming back.
Because the law keeps chaining it.
Yeah.
Even when you read in Ecclesiasticus 6, where it talks about putting yourself in wisdom's fetters.
Yeah, that's true.
The law is putting this beast in chains, and the beast doesn't want to be chained. So now this internal struggle is being manifested because the law clearly defines what sin is. The law clearly defines this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. If you do what you're not supposed to do, you're going to get stung. So that inner struggle is always going to be tussling to do what it wants to do, despite the fact that it knows if it does it, it's going to be stung and branded and punished. So read on.
God, I had not known sin but by the law, for I had not known lust, except the law has said.
How many times did you read in the Old Testament about the word lust? No. I want listen. Read the end of the verse and I'll ask the question. Read that.
For I had not known lust, except the law has said, thou shalt not covet.
What did you read in the Old Testament?
Thou shalt not covet.
Thou shalt not covet. Did you read about the lust that comes from that?
No.
You don't read about lust. Why?
Because the law doesn't cover that?
The law doesn't cover it. The law just says you're not supposed to covet, but it doesn't deal with how to control lust.
Doesn't reveal
Or with why you would
beast.
covet.
It doesn't give you the solutions
The blueprint
as to
of
how to destroy lust.
To defeat it, yeah.
But lust only pops up after you follow the law and realize, damn, I can't want what another person has.
Right.
But I want it.
But I want it.
I want it now.
Why do I want it?
How come I can't get it now?
I really want it.
Oh, wow.
Now.
If you do it though, you finna die, boy.
Not now, but right now.
Before you do it, you gonna die. That's what I'm gonna tell you. You gonna die.
So all I hear is I'm gonna die if you do it. But now this lust monster's in me. I want it though.
I still want it.
And now I got all these thoughts popping in my
You
head.
finna die, boy. Touch it.
The Lord don't go into details about how to counteract all these lustful thoughts that is dancing in your head like this. It's just dancing. These lustful thoughts are dancing. All the law says is don't covet. But all this negative is dancing and prancing and moonwalking in your mind, playing the flute and stuff. Listen, so the law doesn't go into the specifics of how to counteract that. So this is the point. So Paul is saying it's great that the law said I can't covet, but because I wouldn't have known lust if the law didn't say I wasn't supposed to covet. But it doesn't deal with how to overcome the lust. It just tells you what you can and can't do.
Which is a sketch.
It is a sketch. It is the beginning of how you clearly define how to develop a spirit. I hope people online understand. I hope people in class understand.
That was a monster.
We are not bashing the law. We're just saying the law doesn't provide the solutions to Israel's internal sickness. It doesn't give the answer to how to deal with jealousy, how to deal with envy,
hate,
how to deal with hatred. It doesn't give the answer for that.
It's not supposed to do that.
You know, because if it did, then Joab or David would have been pulling scriptures on Joab as to why the hell did Joab feel the need to kill Abner.
Yeah.
Remember when Joab killed Abner? He said, I did it to avenge my brother. No, you didn't. That was because you are threatened by his position and you were envious that David was going to make a league with you, Abner, and make you the captain of the host. So I didn't want to lose my position. That's why I did it. But you know what? Lawfully, he was okay. According to the law, he said, no, I was just defending my brother's honor. He slew my brother. So I killed him because he slew my brother. So you know what? Lawfully, they couldn't kill him. But his inward intention was not that.
Playing games.
So he poured a law card to disguise that pernicious spirit he had. And what was that pernicious spirit again?
Yeah, it says malignity, right?
Yep.
And the word malignity means pernicious influence.
So once
Then
again,
we get pernicious.
Joab had this pernicious, malignant influence disguised by the law.
Pernicious.
It was a cloak. I'm defending my brother because he killed my brother. Yeah. Even though Abner said, bro, stop. Just ride off. And he knew that. He said, ride off, let it go, man. Let it go. Let it go. Okay, I got to get you then. But what's up?
Pernicious. Tending to injure or destroy.
So, you know, a lot of times the law couldn't reveal Joab's wicked intentions because Joab used the law as a cloak of maliciousness to justify his wickedness. That was the problem with the law. If you were smart enough, you can use technicalities to justify you doing wicked deeds. And that's what the Pharisees were doing in Matthew 23. They were smart enough because this is what happens when you have that mixture of the law and that wicked heart that you read about in 2nd Ezra 3:23. So the times passed away, the years were brought. No, I'm sorry, it was 22. The infirmity was made permanent, and the law also in the heart of the people with the malignity of the root. So you got this law and this wicked root mixed in. Then you get a smart person. They can work their way through litigation and paperwork and justify doing a wicked, cruel thing to you.
Or they could play the game of, I got 6 sheep, I can do 6 sins. I can afford to sin because I can afford to give the fee. Because remember, your sheep and oxen were money. It was
currency. It was
currency.
your token of sacrifice.
Boom. So I can do what I gotta do. Listen, I had twins. This sheep had twins. So I got extra sheep. I got plenty of tokens to go turn in. I'm just gonna cash.
And then you know they're saying I may
please.
or may not get caught.
That's it.
You know the thing is, you think what happened to the sister Judith. Remember what happened to Judith? Do you think everybody got caught like that?
No.
How many situations happened like Judith, and they got away with it?
You mean Susanna?
Many more, probably.
Was it Susanna? It was Susanna.
Sorry.
With Daniel.
Thank you. So my thing is, how many situations that happened with Susanna, them Pharisees got away with it?
There's 2 witnesses.
And I suppose you got two. You had 2 witnesses, and they conspired to do dirt against his sister under the cloak of the law.
Man,
How many times did Israel get away with that?
you know it happened a lot.
You know it happened a lot. And this is what Christ was seeing. So that maliciousness and wickedness could have still been masked by the law. So it proved that you could still work around the law and still do wickedly. If we were going to be perfect, we had to follow Christ's heart, because Christ's approach went to the direct heart and the intention of a man. And if you can't give your spirit and break your intentions, you can't get to the Most High. If you can't break your intentions, you can't get to the Most High. And the law don't force you to attack your intentions. It's that simple. I want to keep going.
Got to pause right here. Matthew 5.
Y'all better rewind this, man. This is right. This is here. You might have to go over it a few times to get it.
Matthew 5, 27, 28. Matthew 5, 27, 28.
Yeah, that was what I was
Case in point.
Yeah.
Case in point.
Matthew chapter 5, verse 27. Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery.
Stop right there. Old time
That was a law.
Right.
means Old Testament.
Yep.
He said, I come not the way with the Psalms, the prophets, or the law of Moses, but to fulfill. Fulfill means what? To make it completely pronounced, to completely pronounce the understanding. Christ is fulfilling the law by giving the complete pronounced understanding. Keep reading, please.
Verse 28.
Uh-huh.
But I say unto you.
Now he's adding to the understanding.
So on top of this, let me give you more.
I'm giving you the sketch. You heard of...
You already have the sketch.
Yeah, you have the sketch.
I'm going to fill this damn sketch in.
Yeah, he's shading right now.
Yes.
Right? What's the shade part? Verse 28. Let's clear it up.
Come, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her have committed adultery with her already.
Stop right there. What is Christ doing? He's attacking the internal thinking pattern. The law doesn't kill the thinking pattern. It just tells you, it identifies the negative.
It identifies the problem. It doesn't give you the solution to the problem. So if you want to, because you know what the problem is? If the Most High says you're not supposed to commit adultery, but you're not taught how to control your thoughts, once you play with a thought too long, it's over.
You're going to do it.
Once you play with the thoughts too long, it's over. So Christ understood this about mankind. So I gotta break these people at the initial thought, if there's any chance to keep them from sin, to keep them from corrupting themselves. So if I'm gonna keep a person from adultery, I gotta keep a person from even thinking a lustful thought about any woman,
For example,
let alone married or unmarried. I gotta make sure a man stops being in the lustful mind with a woman that's married or unmarried. If I break it at the root, then it can't morph and splinter into different types of sin.
and I'm gonna make this point too. So if you're a father,
No, bro.
this is an approach. If you're a dad and you have a daughter, 'cause this is the real thing right now. Instagram, all these different apps nourish a very worldly, poor spirit.
Yeah.
That's what the internet nourishes now. All right. So you can tell your daughter all you want. You cannot have social media. That can be the law of your house. No social media. Guess what? Eventually, she's gonna get on social media, whether
Then we
you
burn her
like it,
accounts.
whether you like it or not. Your
Or
daughter's
her friends will create an account for her.
That's what's that burner accounts.
Yes, exactly. I said no social media.
Or you'll sit back here and you'll say this is your dress code.
Come.
And they'll leave
And they'll
dressing
change
like a
that.
saintly woman.
Change the outfit.
And then they're gonna borrow an outfit from their friends.
At the school.
Then they'll switch it out once school is over, and then put their regular clothes on.
And she got.
You know that was happening in the street.
She got the scarf.
That happens in the streets every day, B.
She got the scarves on her head. She come to the house, shalom, father, with the scarf and the long dress.
All she got to do is hang out with a friend who got her roundabout size.
And she gonna say shalom, and Dad's like, that's right.
My daughter is in order.
That's what
she is in order.
We're Israelites.
She is a saint.
That's the game we're playing. The Father is initiating structure. That's the right thing to do.
Yes.
But guess what? If you're really tight, and this is a big thing. I'm not gonna make it all day. I'm not gonna do that.
You're never gonna finish.
Okay, real quick.
Let's finish.
This dad was online. It's viral right now. This dad's explaining his daughter did something nasty with her, quote unquote, and he was blowing her up, and she was crying. She was like, "Father, I can't tell you about my life anymore because you're gonna keep attacking me." He's like, "Baby, I'm trying to tell you what to not do and show you why it was wrong in the first place. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to save you, baby." He had to explain it and really talk slow to her to get her to see it, because it was a vital point of relationship. Mm-hmm. Bottom line, you're gonna have to eventually teach your daughter where lust will take her spirit, where entertaining strange men will how to destroy her soul, and what's the outcome of entertaining, going to these little parties on the weekends and little sleepovers and cliques and hanging out and secret little texting, little emails going on, and where it goes. You can tell her don't go on social media all you want, or you can be like Christ and get into her mind and show her all the spirituality behind it and break the desires by giving her the picture that she needs to see so she doesn't get caught up into lust. Which one is which one would you choose as the father?
Right.
Just the law, or would you give her the understanding?
Or just the no. Just no.
Or she gonna be an anti-Jew. She'll be an anti-Jew at 22.
Yes, it's the truth.
And Jay gonna be out
you
there. She in order with me.
Look at this.
She in order with me, dog. She gave me the J's. She knew what I want. You're throwing her to the wolves if you don't give her the understanding. So why do you think Christ will not give us the understanding so we don't be thrown to the wolves?
But people are immature in the spirit, and they think that when Paul is teaching about Christ, or Christ is teaching about his works, it's I'm throwing away something for this. It's not that. No. It is a greater understanding to the concepts that never were dealt with the law. The law. You know, the crazy thing is the law didn't determine mankind's righteousness. It just didn't. It gave you an opportunity to choose what path you want to take. And it lets you know what wickedness was inside it. Because as we continue to go in Galatians 3, Paul keeps asking, is the law made you righteous, or your faith made you righteous? And he goes into Abraham and all the works he did. What he did for the Most High made him righteous, not the law. His decisions and his sacrifices and the things he committed in following the Most High, following Christ back then, is what made him righteous.
Killing his son.
Not the law that just sets the stage for you to choose what path you want to take. But just for the most part, most mankind just can't figure it out, even with the law right in front of them and provided to them. They just can't do it. That's why we do the joke about Israel wearing fringes and still smoking cigarettes. Because I've seen it out of my own eyes. Yeah. And they're sitting back here, their shirts are fringed up and smell like straight Black and Mouse. And that's like, what the hell? You got Black and Mouse smell on your hand eye with dirty weed fingers? but you got strings on your shirt eye? And you're spiritual? That is proof, positive, that the law only sets the stage for the battle, but it can't make the man fight the battle. And more times than not, the man ain't going to fight the battle because of the wickedness that's in us from the time of Adam. Let's go. Let's continue. Now let's go Romans 7 and verse 7 again.
Come. Romans chapter 7 and verse 7 reads, "What shall we say then? Is the law sin?
No.
The Most High forbid.
The law isn't sin. The law is good." Read on.
"Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law. For I had not known lust, except the law had said, thou shalt not covet.
So it's this a good thing. The law set the boundaries. The law revealed the wickedness that was in me.
Right.
The law just didn't help me fix what was in me. It revealed what was in me. It just didn't help me fix what was in me.
So the law is like that little machine that you put on the car and you get the readout, and then it gives you all the parts of the vehicle. Because
Okay.
I'm not
Diagnostic.
I'm not a mechanic.
It's the diagnostic.
It's like magic to me. I'm like, wow.
This device is magical.
This is I can save money by doing this. Elisha, let's go to AutoZone, bro. Pop
I can
up.
save $100 every diagnostic.
I'll be looking at the mechanic. Hey, what is wrong with this? Help me. And they're like, listen.
You ever see that meme where most women put up? They open the trunk of the car, not the trunk, but the front hood, and they're like, "This is me looking for what's wrong with my tire rack."
Yeah.
I don't know if you see that dumb thing, but that's what it is. You going out.
So if you're in a mechanical realm, you get the little computer thingy and you put it underneath the little steel wing, the little thing with the wheel thingy.
I'm looking at the engine.
Right? And you put it in there, and then it goes like that. You look up, and then all of a sudden you see all these codes.
The ODM code.
And guess what? The average Joe can't read the codes.
Yeah.
But who do you take it to? The priest.
The code man.
The code man. the code guy. The guy who's in the parchments all day. And you go there and go through. I mean, these are all the sins your car's been out there breaking all the laws, bro. You've been driving a demon. You've been driving a demon, bro. And you know what? Then the master of assemblies, the shepherd, says, we gotta change this engine, bro. You gotta change, bro.
Can we put some oil in the engine, bro? Can we put some oil first?
You need some oil right here. You need a new radiator. You need a new perspective. You know what I'm saying? And then we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get and remove this right here. And matter of fact, we might have to beat this thing a little. We might have to beat it a couple times. We might have to beat this out. And then once we replace,
that's starting.
Yeah,
the battery did
we're
start
gonna
out.
Now replace parts. Your car's gonna be less of a demon, but we still have 15 different broken parts.
I'll let you drive off for now. Yeah. You got to come back for some maintenance in like a month.
If you got some more money, I'll go ahead and fix the rest. And the money for us is time.
Israel understands this one. Israel understands this dynamic, guys.
If you got some
they understand that.
If you got some more money, I'll fix the rest of your vehicle. And for Israel, if you got some more time, eventually we can restore this vehicle. You are the vehicle. We are the sinful demon cars.
But the law just points out the diagnostic.
God,
Christ gives us the how to fix it. Does that make sense? Great analogies. Let's continue.
Verse 8. But sin.
Look up concupiscence. Read that.
Taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner.
Listen, the sin, which was revealed by the law, right? Yeah. Sin is the breaking of the law, right?
Yep.
So it says sin, taking occasion by the commandment, the law. Read on.
Taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence.
So listen, it says sin came out of me once the law was established, and that process brought out of me all type of concupiscence. Concupiscence is desire, craving, longing, desire for what is forbidden.
That's the devil right there.
Lust. So what he's saying is, once the law came out, that craving, longing, desire for what is forbidden manifested itself. And this is what Paul is saying. And he's saying the law doesn't give a remedy for that craving. Everybody knows what that damn craving is.
No one wakes it up.
Huh? It just wakes up. Me want more! Me not finished!
I can't do what?
I don't know. I mean, Cookie Monster or what? I don't know what it is.
That's a sin.
Listen, but this is what it is.
Right.
The concupiscence is the desire, craving, longing, and desire for what is forbidden. That lust kicks in once the law tells you can't do X, Y, Z. And that's the motions of sin. It's the concupiscence. It's all those thoughts that you can't control and that the law doesn't provide solutions for.
Does that make sense?
Read verse 8 again.
Come. But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence. For without the law, sin was dead.
Sin was dead when I didn't listen. That craving wasn't even identified, because when you was in the world, you just did what you want to do anyway, with no consequence. You just followed whatever feeling you had. It was a lot easier to operate in the world without the knowledge.
Yeah.
If you want some pepperoni pizza, you get some pepperoni pizza.
I used to be vivacious for this. When you told me the Bible, everything was.
I was full of life and had fun.
People say you're full of the truth. I was fun-loving and vivacious.
Yeah.
No, you were lustful and concupiscent.
You were just guided by it. But now you sit back, you walk around and catch a smoking dank out. In the first one, it's like, damn. I read the Bible. I'm a religious person. I'm religious now. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
That's real.
But all those flashbacks kick in,
Yeah.
and those motions of sin kick in,
That's real.
and the law does not sit back here and give you a how-to book. The law doesn't on how to break those thoughts
That's true.
and how to eliminate those cravings that are constantly building up in you. Read verse 9.
For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came,
That's what he's saying. I was vivacious.
I was alive.
I was happy. I was happy before I got this truth thing.
Oh my God.
But listen, doesn't it all make sense now? It makes so much more sense.
You trying to sand ribs out?
Yeah.
This scripture right here. This is why the ribs are
Sad
sand.
men too. It ain't just sad ribs. Men get happy as hell too. Anyway,
I let you bang on ribs.
I know.
mean, you know.
I've been saying men too is like this.
I gotta admit though, I did say that one time in the afterlife.
I know. That's real. We're common. That is a common thing.
Every newlywed truth has heard that statement.
Yeah.
I'm dying.
It's not funny anymore.
I was happy. I was fun-loving. I was confident. I was sure of myself. Like, damn.
You broke my soul.
It was Diablo. Diablo did it. He's the bad guys.
Oh my god.
You
God.
destroyed my spirit.
Yeah, you crushed me. Out of here, bro. Yeah.
And they make videos online. Why I
Left the human life.
Oh, now we know.
Now we know. Well, let's keep going, man. Let's keep going. So, read verse 9 again.
for I was alive without the law
There was
once,
no restraints. There was no boundaries. Read on.
but when the commandment came,
Oh no.
Uh-oh. All the no's. All the you can't do this, you can't do that. All of a sudden, then what happened?
sin
All
revived.
of a sudden, that desire for the forbidden fruit is kicking up, huh? Now I want that forbidden stuff, huh? What's going on over there, man?
My mind.
How you
You see where it got us?
Now we know. Now we know where that came from. Now we know where that came from.
Okay, try to teach you, right?
Oh, you know what? Nah. We're not doing that. Get out of here on that one.
Oh my God.
He's trying to make R. Kelly holy. Get out of here, B. Okay, read verse 10.
And the commandment, which was ordained to life,
The commandment was supposed to be good, and going back into 2 Ezra chapter 3, he said that the goal was to sit back and fix what was inside of you. He says that the law might bring forth fruit in them. The hope was that the law was going to bring fruit into that wicked heart. That was what the intents were when Christ brought the law to us. But now, he said that commandment which was ordained to life, read on,
God, I found to be unto
he
death.
found to be unto death. Because what it brought out of us is what led us to death. That desire to go push and pursue sin is what brought us to death. Once the law was established, we kept pushing for the forbidden. And that forbidden pursuit, the motions of sin, is what led us to death. The only person that can bring peace to us is following Christ's way. Because in following Christ's way, you'll have a way to corral those inner demons that we weren't able to corral with the law. Read on.
Come. Verse 11, for sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it slew me.
Listen, the commandment was there. The sin deceived me. The concupiscence deceived me. Because once you're told no, once the law tells you no, your mind is constantly working on why you should avoid what the Spirit's telling you. Didn't the scripture say in Jeremiah 17:5 that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked? It's 5 and 9. But we just want to make this one point. The heart is deceitful and wicked. And this is why it said that sin deceived me. Because that concupiscence kept telling me it was okay. Once the law told me no, that negative root in me kept telling me and trying to convince me that what I desired was okay. So go ahead and follow it. It deceived me and it slew me by it. But that whole dynamic of that flesh in me, that negative in me, convinced me to go left, came about once the law was presented to me. What you gonna say?
I just want to say, and even brothers, when they read and they have a solid understanding of scriptures, they will use certain scriptures to convince them why their mentality, their off way of thinking is right.
Mm-hmm.
They will find a verse that matches with their mentality, with their way of thinking.
No doubt.
And I don't make it right. I don't make it whole.
That or if you're just gonna be flat out negative, and you're told no, and then all these. Listen, I don't care who you are. The more you meditate on some negative, you will do it.
Yeah.
The more you play with thoughts, you will do it. Yeah. And this is what Paul is saying. My thoughts deceive me. That sin deceived me. That wickedness in me deceived me, even though the law was made to be the right thing, and it showed me the right things. The law just didn't give me the manual of how to overcome the spirits that rise up once the law is presented. Read on.
Come. Verse 12. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just, and good.
And these are all facts. The law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just, and good. And all the verses brothers were pulling earlier. Let's go through Malachi 2 and 7, and Psalms 19, and Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. All of it's awesome. Let me see. Psalms 19 and 7. All of it's true, and nobody has ever said it wasn't the case. We agree. But all that holy talking about the law didn't fix what was inside of us. And there's not a verse you can prove that. Read on.
Was then that which is good made deaf unto me?
And this is now Paul is explaining it with more detail. So now that Paul has cleared up the fact that the law is not bad, now he's like, well, damn. Then the thing that was good for me, was it made death for me? Did me knowing the law that was good bring about death to me? Read on.
The Most High forbid, but sin, that it might appear sin, working death in me by that which is good, that sin by the commandment might become exceeding sinful.
Something had to happen. We had to keep falling until we learn to hate the sin. Because listen, we just explained how the sin deceived us. The concupiscence deceived us. So in the process of sin and concupiscence deceiving us, what had to happen? We had to keep sinning until we realized, man, this spirit's lying to me. Every time I feed this spirit, bad things happen. Every time I feed this impulse, look at what happens in my life. It affects my marriage. It affects my relationship with brothers. It affects my relationship with sisters. So now, because I've sinned so many times, I learned to stop trusting it. I learned to stop letting it deceive me. So now sin has to become exceedingly sinful based off the many times we've fallen. But once again, the template and the solution is still dealing with Christ. But the thing, the law wasn't meant to get us to die. It wasn't meant to bring about death. It was meant to teach us what's right. And then our lessons were supposed to teach us to learn to hate the wickedness. Because as soon as the battle starts, you don't hate wicked. When you come in, you get the knowledge, you get the law, all of it's cool, but you still like wicked.
That's true.
And as you grow and evolve, you start realizing, when you grow up, when you stop, when in the spirit, when things that you had a strong pull on you, you don't want them anymore. That's the first way you show the Most High that you're growing. I don't have a pull like I had a pull 4 years ago on this one thing. You know what? There's another thing that's waiting on me. I ain't broke. But this one, I don't even want it no more. Because I know it's no good for me.
Right.
And then I go to the next thing. Man, I've made something. I know that's not good for me either. Sin has to be exceedingly sinful. That was the purpose of it. But we read on.
Come. For we know that the law is spiritual.
And over time, the law is spiritual. So the Sword of Truth Bible School does not teach that the law is bad. We teach the law is good and it's spiritual. Read on.
But I am carnal, sold under sin.
I was off.
And that is what the law manifests. The law manifests the flesh. And this is why Paul said the law is flesh. Not because the law is carnal. We just read that Paul said the law is spiritual. But Paul said the law is flesh because it reveals the flesh. It reveals the flesh, but doesn't solve the internal problems that come from following the law. That's what Paul was saying in Galatians 3:3. So when Paul, we're going to read next week in Romans 8, that Paul talks about the Spirit. It's the Spirit of Christ. And following the Spirit of Christ fixes the internal issues. And this is what Paul was trying to focus on when he was developing the Gentiles in different countries. Let me just sit back and work on what's inside of them. Let me make that priority. So they don't have to sit back here and go through the cycle of having confidence in the law and not growing and not addressing the internal issues. Because this is why Paul kept talking about how the Jews had confidence in the flesh. Even Paul himself said it in Philippians. I too had confidence in the flesh. And then he said circumcise the eighth day. And he went through all his Hebrew pedigree. Because he understood that the flesh was your confidence in the law that brought out all the flesh. That exposed the flesh.
Can I read this right here?
I'm trying to stretch this out to make sure we understand, because I got to go back to even while we had the title of the class.
This is going to help it.
Okay.
I wrote it on the card for that reason.
I wrote it
on the card to bring out the right time.
What is it? Go for it.
Right? Flesh, G4561. G4561, flesh, so this is what it says right here, right? It says, by implication, human nature.
Yes.
With its frailties.
Yes.
Physically or morally, passions.
So he says that the law brings out the what? Say those definitions again.
It says flesh. It says, or by implication, human nature.
So the flaws, the law exposes man's human nature. But it doesn't kill and mortify the flesh.
With its frailties.
This is why Paul kept talking about how he paralleled how Christ killed sin. He killed death. He overcame death. He overcame the flesh. He overcame sin. So he's like, if Christ overcame sin, why aren't we following that approach? Why are we following an approach that Israel never mastered and we kept failing it? Why are we establishing our, put it this way, not while we're following, why are we establishing our confidence in a method that's never worked for our nation? It's one thing to learn the law, understand the law. It's another thing to have confidence in it and to tell yourself, this is all I got to do. That was what he was attacking. He was attacking the Hebrews that told themselves all they had to do was follow the law. Because he himself followed the law. It proves you that in Acts 21 when he was going through the purification process with those 4 other men. He followed the law. But he understood that was a stepping stone. And he was trying to teach the people that were under him that the law was a stepping stone. It wasn't an end point. That's what he was trying to break in them. That's why he said in verse 6 that you got to be dead to the law and be now renewed and remarried to Christ. So you can learn more, so you can be fruitful. Okay, let's continue. Romans. That was good. Romans 7 and 14, no 15.
15.
So now 7 verse 15 is still based upon that dynamic between the law and that sin or concupiscence in us. That desire to follow forbidden passions. Read on.
Romans chapter 7 verse 15. For that which I do, I allow not. For what I would, that do I not.
The things that I do, I didn't allow it. I didn't let it happen. It controlled me. Possession is real. When you sit back and play with thoughts enough, you're going to do it.
So,
and it's not really that, yes, you did it, but there is an overpowering force that pushed you to it. And it's negative in you.
That's the sin in men that we don't address.
That's
identified with the law, but it's not addressed.
So what he's saying is my logical mind didn't allow it. But that demon wanted it. And it overcame me. Read on.
For that which I do, I allow not. For what I would, that do I not.
The things that I want to do, I don't have the power to sustain. The things that I want to do, I don't have the strength to keep from doing it. Even on our best day, half the time, you can stay strong for a couple weeks. Then you start breaking down again. Then the weirdo comes out again. All got different. It's the truth. There's just different weirdoisms that come out.
Yeah. I hate y'all.
I love you. I'm sorry. I love you. What? Which one are you? Which one are you today?
I love you. I hate you. Like, that's the nature of the flesh, bro.
Exactly. So this is the situation. Read on.
But what I hate, that do I.
And that's the dynamic. That dynamic happens when we follow the law and don't address the inside issues and don't give ourselves to Christ's way. This is what happens to all of us who haven't committed ourselves to learning how Christ does things. It's this never-ending cycle of I want to be strong, but I get weak. I don't want to give into my lust, but I do. The things I hate this about myself, but I keep falling to it. If that's not every single one of us in this building and online, then you're lying to yourself. But this is what happens when you haven't committed yourself to Christ's approach. Read on.
Verse 16. If then I do that which I would not, I consent unto the law that it is good.
So if I do the things that I don't want to do, then I'm also acknowledging that the law was right, because it set the stage to even show me where I was off. It taught me I was off. So I'm considering it was good. For me to even know there's a battle. What he's saying here is for me to even know there's a battle is proof the law is good. For the fact that I'm in the battle is a good thing. And without the law, I would never even have been in the battle in the first place. I just need more tools to overcome the battle.
We would have been spiritually dead.
And that's
so
the
point. Law starts bringing you to life.
So that, because the law now is introduced me to my battle.
Yeah.
But now Christ will give me the tools I need to overcome the demons in me. Read on.
Verse 17. Now then it is no more that I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me.
And we just read that in 2 Ezra 3. That wickedness from Adam has never left us. The Most High never took that sin out of us. He never took that concupiscence out of us. Mm-hmm. So once again, I'm acknowledging the law is good because the law established that boundary with me. He established those issues. He established that I had issues. But also the fact that that sin hasn't left me. That wickedness that was from Adam never left me. Read on.
For I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing. For to will is present with me.
There is a desire to do right, even though the law is there, I want to do right, and I'm glad the law showed me right from wrong. But, read on.
But how to perform that which is good, I find not.
And that's why Christ is necessary.
That's the answer.
That's why Christ is necessary, to give me the how to perform the good. Read it, verse 18 again. Don't you see it? It's all clear, man.
Read one more time, bro.
Read it again.
Come, for I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing.
I understand that there's nothing but sin inside of me. The law hasn't showed me that there's sin in me. Read on.
For to will is present with me.
I want to fight, but I keep losing my fight. The law has showed me that I have to fight. The law has shown me that I have sin in me. And I want to do good. But, read on.
But how to perform that which is good, I find not.
The law didn't teach me how to perform the good. The law didn't teach me how to break that concupiscence in me. The law did not teach me what? Where's that damn word? Didn't teach me how to kill my desires and cravings. The law did not teach me how to break my longing and desire for what is forbidden. The law didn't teach me how to break my lust. Christ teaches you that. And that's why Christ, the Spirit, is necessary. And this is why you have to let go of kill the law and marry Christ. So you can learn the performance of how to do good.
Not don't follow the law, for those that don't want to follow the law anyway.
It's clear as day, bro.
What it means is take your commitment and all the zeal you have towards the law and commit the same passion, zeal, and focus and level.
To learn how to perform the good.
There you go.
How do you perform the good? The law tells me what to do and what not to do. I need Christ to teach me how to perform the good in me. Read verse 19, man.
For the good that I would, I do not. But the evil which I would not, that I do.
Because I haven't had a steady dose of how to procedurally break that wickedness in me. Read on.
Now if I do that, I would not. It is no more I that do it.
No. Read it again.
Now if I do that, I would not.
Now if I do the things that I don't want to do, now that I do the things that I don't want to do, meaning lust and concupiscence has ruled over me. Read on.
It is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me.
This sin is strong in me, and I don't know how to control it. This is what Paul is saying. The sin is in me, and the law hasn't taught me how to corral this wickedness. But it's there. But I want to do good, but this wickedness that's been in me since Adam is dominating me. So Paul is explaining that battle of corralling that beast that's inside of us. But we're trying to corral beasts with just the 10 Commandments. The commandments are just instructions on what not to do. And if you do it, you're going to die. That's what the law tells you. It doesn't give you the step-by-step approach to how to overcome and break this negative in you. Read on.
It is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me.
Read on.
I find then a law that when I would do good,
read on,
evil is present with me.
And the proof of that is we can sit back and try to eliminate that pride in us, that lust in us, and we can sustain for a short period of time. And then we start breaking down. He says, I'm gonna sit back and be respectful to my husband. I'm gonna say nice things to him. And how long does that last? A couple of weeks? Get away from me! Get your hand out of my pocket! Like, where did that come from?
Come.
I'm just being stupid. You get my point, though.
Right.
A couple of weeks you're on point, then all of a sudden you're back at it again.
Inconvenience.
And I'm pissed off. I've gone without sleep for a period of time.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed. Then the rudeness comes in.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry. I'm hangry. I'm tired. I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
Life's kind of beating me up. Then I'm disrespectful again. He's explaining that even though you might want to do good, that flesh rises up and takes over. Read on.
Come. For I delight in the law of the Most High after the inward man.
And this is why Paul said, I delight in dealing with the inward man. And I delight in following Christ and learning how to break the inward man. Because the law doesn't deal with the inward man. And Paul's been teaching this whole time about dealing with the inward man. Christ teaches about the inward man. Paul teaches about the inward man. The law doesn't. Righteous men talked about the inward man. David talked about inward man principles. Great men talked about inward man principles, but the law does not teach you inward man principles. It does not. And this is what Paul was saying, and this is why Paul said the law was the flesh, because the law revealed the flesh. The law exposed the flesh. The law exposed the battle about trying to be right while you learn the law, how that flesh and that concupiscence constantly wars with you. That's what he means by the law being the flesh.
Yeah, one more time, another one. Flesh, G4561. Flesh. It says as the symbol of what is external.
Yeah.
So when it says flesh, it says the symbol of what is external.
And the law brings out, it reveals. First of all, it's the external measure. It's the beginning battle. It's the beginning stages of exposing what's inside.
It's a visible problem. This person committed adultery. This person was a murderer because the guy's dead body's right there.
Mm-hmm.
This person right here was eating pork because you can see the sandwich in his mouth.
Yep.
You can see the sin.
That's why the scripture says the law was made for the lawless.
You can
the law was made to reveal the lawless. The law was made to reveal the wicked. The law was made to reveal the whoremonger. The law was created to reveal all of these flaws in mankind. That's 1 Timothy, I think 1 verse 8 through 11. We don't got to go there. But let's continue in Romans 7. Read verse 22 again.
For I delight in the law of the Most High after the inward man.
Mm-hmm.
But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind.
So now he's explaining once again the battle was in your mind. And the law doesn't really get to how the mind works. It doesn't get into the details about the psychology of man. It just exposes that man's their psychology is frail.
Yeah.
And their spirit is frail. And their strength is weak. And their strength is limited.
Breaches.
Con. Read on.
And bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members.
Read that verse again, verse 23. Slack.
But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind.
So now the flesh, the law, now that the law is established, now you have the law, your flesh is warring against your mind. Your mind is telling you, I don't want to do this. The law is telling me I can't do it. The law says I can't do it. But your flesh is constantly pulling on you. This dynamic is what comes from following the law. That inward battle and that struggle to stay strong. Yes.
And he said it was a law, so that means that's that human nature.
It's a human nature. It is from watching people in himself. You can see it. It is a pattern that is unavoidable. Once these scriptures are there in your life, that battle for that flesh to war against the mind is always going on. Read on.
And bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members.
Exactly. And if I just operate with following the law, I'm going to be in this captivity of the mind. I'm going to be a captive to sin. Because the law can't take me out of the captivity of sin. The law can tell me what to do and what not to do, but the law is not going to it's not going to keep me from sinning. The law won't keep me from sinning. The law won't keep y'all from sinning. And that is the flaw. That is the flaw of the law, if there is a flaw. The flaw is that people can't live up to the standard of the law.
To the performance.
People can't live up to the performance and standard. But the only thing that can help us operate under the performance of the law is through Christ. Following Christ gives us a better shot of corralling what's inside of us than following the law.
And Christ will take away the malignity of the root.
Exactly. He will take away that spirit if you give yours. The more you give yourself to Him. And we'll go into that next week. Read on.
Verse 24. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death?
The law can't. The law can't deliver me from this battle. This is what Paul. This is why he says the law is the flesh. The law can't get you out of this issue. Does that make sense? Read on.
I thank the Most High through Yahushua our Lord.
Because without Christ, I couldn't get through this battle. Without Christ, I couldn't overcome what's inside of me. And our nation will just perpetually fall through sin. And falling short of the expectation that was given to us back in the time of Moses.
And the identifying the problem doesn't necessarily solve the problem.
It never solves the problem. It's the beginning. Even when we're counseling people, the battle is to show it to them, the initial one. Then after that, it's more battle than that. Even in your spirit.
Strategizing.
Now you know what the problem is. Like what the law does. Now you gotta break what's inside of you. And without Christ, you can't do it. And this is what he's saying. I thank Christ because he can sit back and give us the answers to how to corral things that none of our forefathers could do.
We have a history of
never doing it as a nation. Read on.
I thank the Most High through Yahushua our Lord. So then, with the mind, I myself serve the law of the Most High, but with the flesh, the law of sin.
So he's telling you, if I'm following the law, that's the flesh. The law is the flesh. So if I'm just going to hold to the law, I'm going to be in this perpetual cycle of sin.
Right.
But if I follow Christ in the mind, I can sit back here and get over this. He's showing the parallels between the flesh, which is the law, and the spirit, which works on the mind, which is Christ. Read verse 25 again.
I thank the Most High through Yahushua our Lord. So then with the mind I myself serve the law of the Most High.
We're going to read that law of the Most High. It's following the spirit. In my mind, I'm going to follow Christ. I'm going to follow the spirit. Read on.
But with the flesh, the law of sin.
If I'm following the flesh, I'm following the law. And I'm going to keep falling short of the law. I'm going to keep sinning if I follow the flesh. Because the flesh was referred to as the law. Are there any questions? Any questions online?
Can you give him a couple seconds?
I know.
A little delayed reaction.
That's cool.
My thing is this. If you got questions and you live in San Antonio, Texas, just come to the school. If you have questions and you live in San Antonio, come to the school. We're always here. And you're free to shoot away.
And it's cool.
It's okay.
We don't have a problem with it.
Nobody's answering. If you got questions and verses, shoot. If you're in San Antonio, come to the school and ask us questions.
We don't have any problem with it. And the Bible says, let us reason on one another, right?
Yes.
We're supposed to reason with the book. That's what the Bible's about.
Got it.
We're not going to be looking at people crazy and things like that because people want to understand something. Our job is to teach.
And online, if you got questions, send comments. It's cool. But just do us a favor. Watch the class from beginning to end and have a clear mind and have a clear mindset while you're listening. If you're coming in class and you have a biased mindset, you're not going to get it anyway. Yeah. Clear your mind and listen. And if you want, listen to all the classes that started off with Galatians 3. It's been like 3 or 4 of them. Starting with that first, I think it was Intro to Galatians 3. Start with there and listen to the succession of classes. And then if you still don't get it, let us know.
And also, the more you study,
it's more to make sense.
It's going to start making sense. These scriptures start coming out of nowhere because it's the understanding. What we're laying down is the Hebrew Israelite understanding of the New Testament and not the Greco-Roman Catholic Church
or the Christian church
or the Christian Churchianity church understanding the New Testament. It's our book, bro. The Bible. This is our book. It's the book of the so-called black man. The book of the so-called Latino man.
Heck yeah.
The book of the so-called Native American man.
Into it.
Old Testament, New Testament. This is our book. So we're getting the opportunity to understand.
Got it. If there's no questions, Tawada for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Tawada, shalom.